Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Lewis Speaks 2023, and today I want to talk to you all about some of the challenges associated with being a trailblazer, as well as my truth. You know, as a trailblazer, you're oftentimes charged with the responsibility of forging new paths, and oftentimes you don't have any model or any real experience or training in doing this. Nobody teaches you how to walk a certain path. You oftentimes have to learn through trial and error, and you make many mistakes along the way. And you also pick up some new tools along the way as well. But many times you bear the burden of wearing so many scars as a result of the hard lessons that you've had to learn. And when you have no representation, when you have no role models, when you have no guides, it becomes really challenging. You are the one charged with the responsibility of getting answers, you know, finding interventions. And oftentimes, these lessons are hard won. And not having that support, not having that validation, not having that guidance, it really makes it that much more difficult. And I realized that on this journey, you know, and let me just say this, my truth is this: I am a gay, or in this case, I would like to identify as same sex attracted, black, Christian male. You know, I no longer identify in the context of a gay man because the lifestyle is just broken. It's not in harmony with my spirituality or the person that I want to be in the world any longer. I used to identify as gay. I think that it's easier to say gay because it's one syllable, basically. It's one gay. It's easier. But same sex attracted speaks more to the person that I am. And I'm not comfortable with these attractions because it contradicts my spiritual orientation. What do you do when your sexual orientation is in direct conflict with your spiritual orientation? You have to make a choice. And right now, after years of choosing my sexual orientation, I choose now to live according to my spiritual orientation because I'm just not satisfied. You know? I realize that the things that really make for happiness, family, purpose, love, work you enjoy, spirituality are all things that elude gay men. And why? Because the life is just a broke down mess. And to be honest, it's the disenfranchised grief when you are a person that formerly identified as a gay person, but now identify as a more spiritually inclined person. It's a disenfranchised grief. Oftentimes people will say things like, you struggle with internalized homophobia, you are living in denial, you are still trapped in the closet. You have so many accusations and criticisms hurled at you. And what I'm saying is this: I don't hate or I don't want to criticize or look down on gay men. If anything, I get it. For years, for 16 years, I identified as a gay man. And those 16 years were fraught with loneliness, confusion, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, anger issues, just relationship nonsense, infidelity, promiscuity, just a lot of unhappiness. And so I'm just like, how long can we continue to live this illusion and this lie? You know, as gay men, we oftentimes subscribe to the fantasy of everything. This is why most of our relationships don't last because, for one, they're superficial. They're based on superficial things. We oftentimes have to sell fantasies in order to be loved properly. And the reality is that we're selling fantasies, so we're not really being loved. We're being loved for the fantasy that we project. That is what we're being loved for. Oftentimes, you see on these apps like Grindr, Jacked, you see men with default pictures that speak more to the fantasy of who they wish they were as opposed to the reality of who they actually are. And so we oftentimes have to sell fantasies in order to be loved properly. And that's just a gross contradiction. And telling this truth is difficult because I feel as though I don't see myself represented out there in the world. I don't see any other black, same-sex attracted Christian men. I don't see that. Everybody's living in hiding. Everybody's afraid to come out of this closet because coming out of this closet invites so much criticism and so much scorn. You know? But the thing about it is everyone has a right to choose their own path that makes them feel fulfilled. And this doesn't make me feel fulfilled. If I'm honest with myself, if I'm sitting here, I'm not fulfilled. And this is hard. This is hard to admit. This is hard to really, really come to terms with because it means that I'm going to have to do something different. It means that I'm going to have to walk away from a life that I have lived for over 16 years. I now understand what those who struggle with addiction, whether it be to chemicals, whether it be to lifestyle choices, whether it be to whatever, I understand what they struggle with now. Having to let go of something that once was your identity, that once was something that you found pleasure in, identity in, you have to let it go because it's not serving you. And I realized that, my desires to live a whole life are in direct conflict with what I once thought was my sexual orientation. My desires to live a whole and complete and authentic life. Part of authenticity is facing truths that are uncomfortable. And there's a dissonance I'm experiencing because oftentimes you say, okay, I'm denying my truth in terms of my sexuality, right? So you come out of this closet, you start owning your identity, supposedly, and you start to realize that you're still in states of distress. You're still struggling with dissonance, where you're realizing that this is not in harmony with your morals, values, principles, and belief system. The gay life is not in harmony with my belief system. It's not. It's creating moral turmoil within my spirit. Now, how do you explain this to people? How do you explain this? I'm trying my best to find the right words to explain this. And it's just so hard because oftentimes you feel as though people don't get it. And then you have to check in with yourself. Am I just suffering from a case of terminal uniqueness where I feel like my story is the only story? And no, I feel like I don't see myself represented out in the world. And this is why I make these videos for other young, gay, black, Latino, same-sex attracted Christian men. I make these videos for them so that way they don't feel alone. So that way they feel like they can see themselves, Maybe some of them have come to a point where they feel as though the life is unsatisfying. And maybe they feel like they want to do something else, like there's a higher calling on their life. But yet still they feel trapped. They feel trapped by their own condition. They feel trapped by just other people's opinions. What will other people think? And I say you have to break out of that because there's something inside you that just doesn't feel comfortable with where you are within this life. If you're like me, I can speak for myself. There's just something about the life that's just it's not jiving with who I am and who I want to be in the world. And so I'm experiencing this dissonance, this discomfort. And yet still I try to stuff it down. I try to forget about it. I try to drink it away. I try to sex it away. And it's not going away. If anything, it's just causing me to sink deeper and deeper into a depression because I'm not acknowledging my truth. And my truth is that I'm no longer comfortable living this life. I have not been able to secure any real friendship or love in this life. It's all just smoke and mirrors. Oftentimes it's compared to chasing a ghost. And that's an accurate description. You oftentimes feel as though you're chasing after illusions, illusions that dissipate. You can't really latch on to it. It's not really anything you can hold or keep, or it's just smoke. And it feels like you're grasping at smoke, trying to collect it, trying to own it, trying to hold it, but you can't hold it. You can't hold something that is not meant to be held. And this life just doesn't feel like it's meant to be held. It feels like it's just only good for your 20s, you know? And then there's just no real future, it feels like. And you have gay men out there who identify as gay men. They're out there and they have found marriage and love and support, so they say. And then you see them on these apps and they're opening up their relationships to all these plethora of lovers, and it's just, it's not what I want. I identify as somebody who's monogamous, and I feel like deep intimacy is enjoyed within the sweet confines of monogamy. Oftentimes people feel monogamy is monotonous, or it's burdensome, or it's restrictive. But I don't see it as restrictive. I see it as a freedom of intimacy. So I have a different perspective. And oftentimes in this world, you're demonized for being monogamous. It's just like, I just have to own my truth. And part of that comes in the form of being a trailblazer. I don't see many people like myself. And so I'm taking these steps to let people know out there that they're not alone. That there is a person out there who shares your similar struggle, who no longer subscribes to the gay life and wants freedom and wants liberation, genuine liberation from a life that's fraught with so much pain, misery, and suffering, And my thing is this: I didn't take anybody else's narrative. I'm trying this out myself, just from the ground up. And I gotta be honest, this life is hard. I just want people to understand that. I want people to understand that. And my purpose and my goal with this video is to let people know that they're not alone. That's my sincerest hope, And so oftentimes I'll put myself out there. I put myself on the chopping block. A lot of people say don't make these videos because these are going to follow you your entire life. People are going to know and then they're going to judge you. Well, you know something? Saving someone's life is more important than other people's judgments and criticisms. Really. Letting people know that they have representation out in the world and that there's someone here that understands their struggle, that's more important to me than the criticisms, judgments, the ostracism of other people. I don't care. As long as you know that there is a person out here that shares your similar struggles and belief system, you got to know it. And this is not criticizing or demonizing gay men. This is calling them in from out of the cold, because this life is cold. These dudes are cold. They will try to turn you to stone, and there are so many people who are living dead. They are the living dead. So many young boys out here just eyes hollow, where their souls have been taken. They're literally turned to stone. They're stuck. And they don't know how to get out. They feel trapped, but they just don't know how to break free. How do you break free? And so part of being a trailblazer is learning tools on how to set yourself free. And then you share what you've learned with other people. And that's the stage that I'm at right now. I'm looking for tools on how to break free, how to manage those cycles of lust that come up, where you desire closeness and company. And you oftentimes find yourself sexualizing those deep, deep feelings, whether they be depression, whether they be horniness, lust. You find yourself sexualizing those needs for just companionship. Sometimes you just want to chill. and you realize that you have to actually show your body in order to just chill. You sacrifice your body just to have company. And it's just like, really? Nah, you're learning new tools. And that's where I'm at. I'm learning and picking up and acquiring new tools so that way I can share the information. So that way people don't have to feel like they're trapped in these cycles of lust, that there's other options. Gotta know that there's other options. And sometimes, when you're so used to a certain way of life, trying to forge a new path is uncomfortable. You have to get used to it because for so long you've been doing things this one way. And then learning how to do something else another way, you're going to be uncomfortable. That's natural. But at the same time, continuing to do something one way and you feel like that way is just not getting you the results that you're looking for, you have to try something new. It's just that simple. You have to try something new because to continue on down that path, you're going to keep on getting the same result, which is loneliness, isolation, pain, misery, depression, anger, frustration. You got to try something new. So I wish everybody out there a wonderful, wonderful year. Just know that you're not alone. Those who are struggling with their attractions, with their same-sex attractions, know that you are not alone. You have somebody here who is also in the trenches. Battle buddies are real. I would encourage those to try to get themselves a battle buddy, somebody who can hold them accountable, because you need that. You need that battle buddy, that person that's going to help you combat these feelings, And like I said, there's no problem with acknowledging the truth about your emotions and your feelings. But at the same time, to continue to act on them and go down these spirals of just loose conduct and depression, it's not working. It's not. So I hope everybody out there just really feels like they have a connection, and has that support. I hope you have that support. And if you don't have that support, know that support is here. I'll definitely make future videos in terms of how I am successfully navigating this experience, because I want people to see also that you can have success here. So I hope this video definitely reaches you with an open mind and an open heart. And I wish everybody a wonderful, wonderful 2023. Peace, y'all.